Okay, I'm sure we're waiting for some people to join us, but I wanted to get started. It is 6:30. Welcome everybody who joined us and is joining us now. And it is our May staff meeting. I have a bunch of things I want to get through, some important mini trainings that I wanted to take care of and make sure that we have time to watch the videos this time because we didn't get to watch the videos last time. So while you're waiting in the comments section, something that you're wondering, whether it has to do with school-related items, work-related items, or just in general, things that you might be wondering. Okay, thank you for signing in the chat box because that's how you enter the raffle. I do check the attendees, but the sign-in is helpful because sometimes your phone numbers pop up or it just says iPhone and I don't know whose iPhone that is. So if you put your name in the chat box, it's very helpful. Cassidy asked, when does Water Day start? That's a good, I'm wondering. And it starts the first week of summer program, which would be the week of June 9th. So right after graduation, which is the 7th, that 9th is going to be dive right into summer camp stuff. So if you are a lead teacher or co-teacher and you want to start planning your lesson plans for the week of June 9th, water play can go from infants all the way through those school agers. The school agers obviously do their alternating weeks of going to the splash pad. But I'm going to get lots of fun toys. We have the great splash pads. We did have to poke holes because we can't have sitting water for North Carolina Child Care Centers, but lots of little toys and hopefully things that we can play with in water play and make it a little interesting and fun for our other students. Okay, was it good, I wonder, because it happens to relate to everybody. Okay. So Super Staff Member of the Month, we're diving right in, Miss Barbie, and I want to thank her very much for everything she's been doing. She's working extremely hard behind the scenes. A lot of the events and things that we've had taken part of, especially this week of our staff appreciation or teacher appreciation week, had to do with Miss Barbie's help and input and her hard work. So thank you for her doing that. She has learned tremendously from diving into the work, taking courses, and from others. She's focused on ensuring expectations are met at Holly Ridge, and the staff are supported day in and day out. She's not afraid to ask questions and receive guidance from others to ensure that Holly Ridge provides quality learning environments for our families. She has terrific attendance and punctuality, and that is greatly appreciated because she opens Holly Ridge and she's there by her lonesome until the next person shows up. So we greatly appreciate Miss Barbie. She wears many different hats at Holly Ridge, so thank you to her very much. And Miss Nevaeh, she has worked so hard. She's come so far. Miss Nevaeh started out and she's grown and she's learned. She's pretty much the co-teacher in room 9. She's grown impressively as an early educator throughout her time as an apprentice and a co-teacher now. She takes constructive feedback to heart and shows improvement and growth after receiving support and guidance from others. She's thoughtful and considerate towards all students and families, and she shows tremendous patience with toddlers and twos, which is very hard to come by for individuals who prefer the itty bitties and have that much patience. You'll have, 14 screaming 2-year-olds in a room, and Miss Nevaeh is able to dive in and start playing games with them just like Miss Bora does, and they are a wonderfully hardworking team. So thank you to Miss Nevaeh. Okay. So welcome to Sneed's Ferry. I was conflicted because I think I did say welcome to Miss Stephanie, but I wanted to make sure Miss Stephanie M was recognized. I have no one on the screen because I had her last month. I think she had just started when I did the meeting. But welcome to her, and I know Morgan started around the same time, so welcome to both of them. Sneed's Ferry Quality Newsletter put together by Miss Ruby. She's got some cool designs going on lately. We want to talk about the parent-teacher conferences today. I'm going to touch on them pretty briefly because we do them every semester, I guess. We do them twice a year. Upcoming events, many have passed. We have our Muffins with Moms coming up on Friday. Hopefully you were able to send out your invites to all of your mother figures and grandmas, aunts, whoever's able to come, they are welcome to join. You don't have to just have one adult per child. Some families have many mother figures. So we hopefully bought enough muffins to go around. We have our designated time slots. If you happen to overlap with another class, just sit like a picnic style on one end of the playground and the other. And then the class that's been out there, they just kind of wrap up slowly. You don't have to rush people off the playground. Make sure you take those wonderful pictures of those mother figures and the students that came to visit. And then if you are a parent yourself, please let us know Thursday what time slot you'll need for your child so we can set aside coverage for you. Currently, we have Teacher Appreciation Week, getting little trinkets in your mailboxes, little goodies throughout the week. Tomorrow is breakfast buffet day, and we have lots of parents who are participating, bringing some goodies for you. I'm going to throw my casserole together this evening, so we'll have that as well. So it should be a nice breakfast. So go to work hungry and don't fall asleep after you eat breakfast. Then we have, today you got Pelican Snowball vouchers. They're little slips that Miss Barbie made. And I worked it out with Pelicans where you can go to the one in Sneads Ferry for a free cup and topping anytime up until Friday when they close. So just make sure you use that voucher before then. What else do we
I'm
have?
sorry to interrupt, Shannon. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So I have a nut allergy. I'm not sure if anyone's bringing like a dessert breakfast kind of thing or having like nuts and a yogurt parfait or whatever, but would it be okay if we labeled things just
Yeah,
in
of course.
case there were nuts in anything?
Yes, and if you're ever curious about what's in something, like a parent might drop it off and I'm not aware, but if it's homemade, I'll definitely message the parents to ask. So
Okay.
thank you for letting me know. Is it all tree nuts?
Yes, and I
Okay,
usually stay away from things that I'm not sure about,
right.
but I do love breakfast, so
Yeah. Well, you'll be able to have my
thank
casserole
you.
and a bunch of other items, but I'll make sure that I message parents to just make sure that they abide by the nut allergy, and hopefully that'll hinder some bringing of some nut items.
Thank
Um,
you.
sure. So we have, what else we're talking about? Oh, graduation is happening on June 7th. That happens with Miss Brenda's class, both of our Sneads Ferry NC Pre-K classes and our Holly Ridge hybrid class, because Holly Ridge has NC Pre-K and private in one classroom. And they're going to have two different ceremonies. You're all welcome to come if you want to cheer those little graduates on, especially if they were your previous students. Some of these itty bitties have been with us since they were infants. So if you want to go celebrate them on the 7th, we'll be at Dixon Middle School right across the street from where we are right now. Okay. No, I did not order muffins. I think a parent is bringing muffins. Oh, I did order muffins for Friday, Joyce. Yes. They're in my car. I have like 600 muffins in my car. All right, so we got annual staff survey. I didn't get too many of these. I was kind of hoping you guys would be brutally honest, lay it out there because it's anonymous and you get to just spill it. Tell us how it is. I got some really great constructive criticism and feedback, things that I never even thought of that people wanted implemented. So we're going to work on those things, but please come into this PowerPoint or I'll send the link out again and please fill out the survey. It doesn't take too long. A lot of it's just rating things and then writing explanations if you choose to that would help support the rating. Because if you give me a rating of a 2, I want to know why that particular topic got a 2 so I can better support and make sure we grow because we're always looking to grow. Okay. The Kachu being awesome. I talked about this last time, but I want to make sure you are still aware that they are in the little plastic drawers above the mailboxes. Please take one every time you might notice somebody going above and beyond. You caught them being awesome because our eyes are not everywhere all the time, obviously. And we want to be able to highlight and celebrate each other. So it's just an awesome way. I have treats in the back office. We can put a treat right on that certificate, put it in their mailbox, and it's a great boost of confidence and motivation in the building. Okay. Parking. Okay, it's only just a couple people. Could be that they're new, but please don't park in that front row that's closest to the building. That is for drop off and pickup from parents. If you are a parent, you're using it as if you're going to drop your child off at childcare. So you park there, you bring your kid to their class, you go back to your car, and then you drive to work. So driving to work would be parking in the second building lot by Cancun. Um, House of Breakfast does not like us, so please don't park in their lot. So everything on that Cancun lot where our second building is, that's all up for grabs. And then I take a risk sometimes and I park in that in-between strip. Not recommending everybody do that, but I'm just a risk taker sometimes and I go right in that in between by the House of Breakfast dumpster. So if you choose to be risky with me, just be careful. Okay. Reminders, menus should be in your mailboxes the Friday, at least the Friday before. Please make sure they are posted that Monday morning at the latest because Kim Sherry, parents, anyone likes to see the menu Monday morning. Parents are looking for what's going to be on the menu for the rest of the week. And Kim Sherry, our lovely consultant, she likes to come Monday mornings bright and early and she will check for those things and lesson plans that are currently dated. So always have your lesson plans current, have them signed by Ruby or myself prior to the week. And then I've noticed a very minimal cell phone use, so I greatly appreciate that. If you do have to take pictures of your students or you wanted better quality pictures than obviously your tablets can handle, I really don't have a problem with that. It is the abuse of the cell phones and the risk of lack of supervision, which was very concerning to us because we had people who were just being very lax with the policy. And they would have the phone in the back pocket. They'd bring it out numerous times throughout the day. They'd have it on a shelf and just constantly check their phone. They'd even take blatant phone calls while they're working with children. And if something happens, God forbid an incident happens, and you're caught on video chit-chatting away on your cell phone or preoccupied because someone had a quick text that they sent you and you just wanted to read it real fast, that's it. I can't help you. We cannot support you. If you need to make a phone call, if you see an important text popped up, or you know someone's going to be contacting you, ask for a bathroom break. Go bring your phone. I don't even care if you're not using the bathroom, but at least you're not supervising children. If you have to make a quick, important phone call, ask admin for coverage so you can make that important phone call. I mean, you have to make doctor's appointments. We understand life happens, but it shouldn't happen in place of the active supervision. Closing checklist, we've had some not too many issues. There were some new individuals who just forgot, if they're used to a pre-K room, just know that the diapering rooms have at least two trash cans. One's going to be filled with those Delight diapers, and then the other one's going to be normal trash. So just make sure that you are cognizant about what the checklist says. It should be helpful in guiding you in how to close the rooms down. Okay, parent-teacher conferences. I did go over this last month, but I want to make sure that it's fresh in your head because they are going to start on Monday. And I wanted to know if anyone had issues getting their sign-up sheets up. It is not mandatory for private school families, only our NC pre-K families. It's mandatory for them to pick a time and show up or speak with the teachers. But we encourage our families to because you don't really get a chance to spend to discuss their child development, their needs, their goals, where they're striving. And this is the great opportunity to do that. We do ask that you push for phone conferences because they are so much easier. Private preschool and our child care schedules are difficult to schedule a sit-down meeting unless absolutely necessary. So if you have a family with a child who you know has significant needs and you want to address services or support that we can provide outside of the classroom, then we're going to sit with the family. An administrator will be involved, and that way we can all be on the same page. If it's just a normal, these are the developmental goals, this is what I did for ASQ, that's a phone conference. So if you need to meet with the parent or you feel strongly about meeting in person, please tell admin so we can schedule that chunk of time and we can make sure we're available. And ASQs are applicable. They're going from infant classroom all the way to our graduating preschoolers. Our graduating preschoolers also have a kindergarten readiness assessment that I have. It's a one-pager, and it just kind of shows the parents what they can work on over the summer to ensure that their child is developmentally ready for kindergarten, like the things that they would expect to see. Okay. Oh, and we have the referral slips for these therapies in the office. So if you need the slips, just let us know. We have the little checklist from Title also, which might help show the family their child does have this deficit and they do need that additional support because a lot of the boxes won't get checked because the child needs to develop those skills. Okay. So this is a quick video. I did really want to show it to you. I showed it 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And it's really about having a conversation with parents about their child and making sure that they know we're on their side. We're there to support them. We're here for their child and have their best intention, our best intention at heart and their needs at heart. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that there's a difference between expressing a concern with the family and then expressing a concern with the family, but having that support and the ideas of how to solve and support the child already in our little pocket. We're ready to go. If you address in a conference and you just start talking about the issues, the problems, but we don't provide anything about how we're going to support this child, they're going to feel lost, they're going to feel attacked, and they're going to feel hopeless. And we don't want our families to feel that way. We want them to feel like we are going to do everything we can for their child. No matter how difficult their itty bitty is, we are there to do the best we can to support them. All right. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I am going to show you the parts that I found the most interesting.
We were practicing the safe way to use the blocks, which is on the floor and building buildings, because sometimes it's fun to throw the blocks, but we're working on that because sometimes we throw blocks because we want people to move, or sometimes we throw blocks because we want someone's attention. So we're working through that and learning different ways to get someone's attention or tell them what we want. So that's a skill that we're working on at school. I'm more than willing to go through the ways that we do that if that's something that's happening at home and would be helpful for you. And we're learning new things every day. And I feel certain that even though this is a hard skill to learn, we're going to knock it out of the park one of these days. So it takes on a whole different spin when I see it as something that is not happening to me to trigger me. And I can see it as something that's happening in front of me as an opportunity for me to teach a skill that's missing. And the only way I can do that is by accessing my own composure. And the only way I'm going to be able to communicate that with our family and have that conscious communication with parents is to shift from judging the behavior from what I think it should be and I deem as good or bad to noticing just what is and seeing it as a skill that's missing and an opportunity to teach those skills. And that is so hard for us as teachers. I think one of the big things that we need to remember is to reflect on our intention when we're having these conversations with families. Is our intention to be helpful and to teach things that are missing, skills that are missing? Because that's all behavior is a skill deficit. Or is our intention to be hurtful in an effort somewhere along the way to make ourselves feel better? So what we know is when we say, oh, Sally had a bad day today, who walks away from that situation feeling like that was helpful? Sally surely doesn't feel like that was helpful. The parent surely doesn't feel like that was helpful. And then I also walk away from that feeling kind of crummy inside as well. So is my intention to blame someone else for my upset, to blame this child for the reason that I feel triggered? Or can I flip it and be helpful in this moment and see it as, what's the skill that's missing and how am I going to be helpful in this moment and teach a skill that's missing? And then how am I going to communicate what we're working on with the family and give you an opportunity to do that in your home with your child? This is the way that we begin to shift society. This is how we begin to teach children to do it differently. That's hard for us as adults because many of you were raised, the same way I was in a traditional model. And this is a brand new way of thinking about things. But what we know is it works. I will tell you many years ago when I was in the classroom, before I had conscious discipline and before I had these tools in my tool belt that I now have that are being sharpened and polished every day of my life, the relationships that I had with families were really poor because of the kinds of communication that I was having with families. I was judging. I was so judgmental and I didn't even know it. What we know is that we can't do better until we know better. So maybe you're having some reflection now and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I've done that. I really haven't thought about it in that way. I hadn't either. So give yourself permission to take an oops on this one and then just flip it and try it and see what happens. What I will tell you based on my experience with children is that when I begin to flip it and just notice what is, and then communicate those things to families, the skills that we were working on, my relationships with my family completely turned around. When they turned around and they made that drastic turn, I had parent involvement like I had never had before. The children soared. It was amazing because as we communicate with families and we share with them the information in a helpful way, it builds trust, not just with the family, but also with the child. And it brings about unity. And when we're all working towards a common goal, it's amazing at the things that we can achieve and the places where we can take children. We meet them where they are to take them where we want them to go. That also goes for us. We've got to meet families where they are to help take them where we want them to go. And the way to do that is to present information in a healthy way and a helpful way with intention of being helpful. So some of you may be wondering, how does this work? How does communication with families work when you have a child who has an extreme behavior? When something's really, really hard, which all behaviors are hard at times, but one that's really, really extreme. So for example, what would we do if one child injured another child? How would we handle that? How is it that we're going to communicate that with the family with intention to be helpful rather than hurtful? And how are we going to know what skill is missing? An example that I have is one year in a classroom where I was teaching, there was a child who, this was a young child, would go home at night and would get pin caps. His dad had a container of pins that would sit on his office desk at home. And he would take the lid or the cap off and sharpen them. And so that they were really nice and sharp. And he would fill his pockets with these pin tops. And this had gone on for a little while before we could really figure out what was happening. We had children that were coming to us with holes in their arms and their legs, and we really weren't sure what in the world was happening. Did we have bugs in the room? Did we have a spider that was biting? We didn't know. So turns out we found out one day that this particular child was pulling these tops out of his pocket, and when someone got too close, he would tuck the pin top underneath his arm, and he was stabbing underneath his arm, and so he would puncture their skin, and it was hurtful for the child. That was hard. That was a hard one. What we know is that all behavior is purposeful, and all behavior gives us information. But you're not able to see it that way unless you can access your own composure. So when this started happening and then we realized what it was, I probably had to take about 47 deep breaths instead of just 1, 2, or 3. And I'm not really sure at the moment, but lots of deep breathing so that I could get myself to a place where I could see this precious child who has unbelievable value and is a member of our family in this classroom as someone who has a hurt and a need, and he's calling for help. So what we found out with what he was doing was that he was trying to communicate to us that he needed more space. He was saying, "You're too close, and I don't know what else to do, so I'm going to make you move by being hurtful." That's what he was asking for. But again, it was hard to get to that place. Our first instinct is to judge and see it as something that we just want it to stop. And when we get into those lower centers of our brain, the way that we see it is, this is not okay. This is not fair to everyone else in our room, and we just want this to stop. So being able to see that as a call for help and trying to find what skill was missing so that we could teach him to do it a different way. How is it that we can ask for help in a helpful way? What can we do? Stabbing children is not okay. So what is it that we're going to teach you to do instead? That's hard. But once we could see it as a call for help and we knew what he was asking for, once I got there, I was able to contact the family and had a conversation with the family. I actually brought them in and had a conference with them. Because of course you want to keep families involved, and they need to know this is a threat to safety of the other children in the classroom and also to himself, or it could be. If he had fallen and those sharp objects were in his clothes, he could have been injured. So it was important. I remember going into that conference, and I remember taking lots of deep breaths for myself so that I could get myself to a calm place where I was able to attribute positive intent to the child and also to the parents. That is hugely important when you have these conversations with families, because if you go in with judgment and judging this child as bad, and that this behavior is bad and something you just want to stop, then the way that the family will receive it is that you're judging them. And they will know. They will know. I've had it on both sides of the coin. I've gone in judging children, and those conversations did not go well. But when I was able to go in, suspending that judgment and being able to see him as a valued member of our community and a precious child who has so much to offer, including his leadership abilities, and able to say that to the family going in and starting off celebrating him, they were much more willing to receive the challenges as something that we were going to work on and a skill that we needed to teach, rather than something I was telling them that was horribly wrong with their child. When you go into conversations like this with families, that's hard for them. I think sometimes we go in with the intention of being helpful, but we really haven't gotten ourselves to that place where we really see it as a call for help. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're passing judgment when we really are. So it's important to breathe and access your own composure first. The third thing that I want to talk about is just in this situation, it's important to go into these conversations consciously willing to offer empathy to these families. This is hard for them to hear. It's hard. And if we go in pushing information, so for example, if we go in saying, this is what your child did, he sawed off the caps of the pins and he made them sharp, and then he stabbed another child. We've got to stop this. This is not safe. It's not something that we're going to allow or tolerate in this classroom or in this school. That feels like an attack on the family, and they're going to immediately fire back. We go in wanting to give so much of our information and sometimes get through our agenda that we fail to remember that relationship governs behavior, and offering empathy is going to get us a lot farther than wanting to follow through and push through our agenda. So hugely critical when you go into these conversations to listen. Listen to what the families are saying to you. Offer empathy in the moment. Be present with them. When they say to you, I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what you want me to do. How do you want me to stop this? Rather than saying, well, I don't know what we're going to do, but he can't be in this classroom. We can't tolerate that kind of behavior. Flipping that and saying, and this is so hard for you to hear because you just want him to be successful at school, and you just want him to be safe, and you want the other children to be safe so that they can grow and learn, and he can grow and learn alongside them. And that is hard, but you can do it. So suspending your own judgment, going and noticing what's happening in front of you as opposed to what's happening to you differently, and also seeing behavior as a call for help. How is it that I can be helpful in this situation rather than being hurtful and demanding that it stop? And offering empathy to the family. This is hard to hear. This is hard for you. I'm here. I'm here to work with you. I'm here to help you understand and look at this differently than you probably ever have. And I'm here to let you know, I'm here to help your child learn and teach them a different way, while I can also coach you in how to do that at home. And so let's do this together. So those are the big pieces when you're consciously communicating with families. You're going to breathe, number one, to access your own composure. Get yourself to a place where you're able to suspend your judgment. Number two, you're going to reflect on your intention. Is my intention to be hurtful and stop something that's triggering me? Or is my intention to see it as a call for help and teach a new skill that will be helpful in this moment and moments to follow? And third, we're going to offer empathy. by listening and offering understanding rather than always trying to push information and get through our agenda. When you can do that, your relationships with your families will be built on trust and they will strengthen rather than be broken by your own judgment of the child and of the family. So,
Okay. So I hope that was valuable and useful information. It's just very difficult for us to be able to go and approach families and have this whole perspective of we are here to help you, support you, and we understand that sometimes the children are just trying to communicate with their actions, and sometimes their actions are harming their peers. So that's why it becomes so frustrating for teachers because we don't want the rest of the kids to become injured and hurt. And as administration, we don't want you to feel frustrated as the teacher that this child continues with these particular behaviors. So if you would like some support on how to best approach certain families with these conferences, reach out to Ruby or myself, Barbie, and we'll be able to help you guys out and support you through that. Okay, moving on. So this is the tip sheet from parent-teacher conferences that we've had each year. It just goes through the expectations, some tips, making sure that you're using that sandwich technique. So you want to give a positive about the child. Make sure you got at least 2 positives. You got to go find 2 for each kid. Something or the goals, everything that you want to work on for the rest of the school year, or things that you would like to see at home so that they can support you and the child. And then at the end, you want to give some more positives and some more some strengths. Those are just the highlights. This is how they should have been able to sign up for conferences. I think the easiest way to sign up is this chart here that says parent-teacher conferences. You can write all the kids' names so that way you can hold accountable which child does not have one signed up. And then, I mean, you gave them the opportunity. That's really all that's necessary. You don't have to pressure them or repetitively ask them. However, if they're a family where you have a concern about their child and you really want to meet with them, then we're going to put that pressure on because admin needs to meet as well. This is the during conference sheet. So make sure you have one of these for each family that you meet with. So if you call them on the phone, this should be in front of you and you're kind of jotting notes during or after or both. And then it'll go into the child's portfolio or their file so that we can maintain a record that we had these conferences or you had these conferences, previous teachers had conferences, and these were the things that were discussed, the next steps, and then any questions or concerns that either party shared. If it's a phone conference, you don't have to have them sign the bottom. Just notate the date and time that you have the phone conference. These are some tips about do's and don'ts. I send you this PowerPoint so you'll be able to go through all those things, and you can watch the full video if you wanted to from Conscious Discipline. Okay, so the next section I want to talk about was active supervision, and this applies to all age groups, to everyone. It is becoming a concern with active supervision in the classroom and outside on the playgrounds. It is not always the same kind of scenario that becomes concerning. So that's why it's so difficult to just pinpoint one scenario and then address it to the whole group. It can be in the classroom where the furniture does not allow you to have that visualization of a child or a group of children. Incidents occur. Supervision where your backs are turned in the classroom because you're doing something important. It's not like you're dilly-dallying, but because your back was turned to your students, something happened and you didn't see the event. Playground-wise, always making sure we are stationed and situated so that we have great supervision and eye line sight to our students. Playing with them and engaging them is always my first choice and suggestion. That way you are guiding their interactions and supervising at the same time. If you are bringing children out or in from a space, there must be, if there's 2 teachers, a line leader and a caboose who are the teachers. They are both counting and they are doing the name to face counting. Like you know who you're looking at when you're counting. If you go around and touch heads, that's great and everything, but you might have missed a head. You know, you get distracted. So looking at your students and really making sure you're intentional when counting. We're counting often. Before we shut that door to go inside or outside, we do a final count. If it is one teacher for some reason with the class, maybe you're well within ratio and the other teacher went into the bathroom. So you just happen to be with those few children. You have the job of double counting now and checking the space you're about to shut the door on. Do not leave that space. Do not shut that door until you have double checked the space. For wanderers, for children who may have just darted and hid, there's so many things that can happen like that, and you don't realize it because you're preoccupied. You're getting water jugs, you're getting backpacks and walkies and boards, and by the time you have everything, you've already counted everybody, but then that one child wandered into that little nook and cranny and you didn't see them do it. And then you go in the room or you go outside with the other students and bam, that's it. Now that it is warmer out, we are frequenting our indoor and outdoor play. We're going potty often. We're doing all kinds of things. So just please make sure you are very conscious of counting students and knowing if I come into your room and say, how many in there today? Okay. And I ask you, who's here, and you're able to tell me who's at school, who's not, then you are actively counting instead of just counting heads. You know who's in the room that day. So there's a training, and I only took the images of it because I really just wanted to highlight the important parts that I found were necessary for us instead of boring you with the other parts. And it's got 6 strategies that are keeping children safe in early childhood education. So the setup of the environment, like I said, no obstructed views. Your sight line should be straight. If you feel like your furniture is too high or it's not placed correctly, where you have this weird spot you can't see, you're usually in blocks and you literally can't see the other half of the room, that is a poor setup for your sight line in blocks. So we need to reevaluate. Your furniture obviously is all child size, so that's not an issue. Free of clutter. Now, I understand in the younger classrooms, this is difficult. A lot of the time you are doing something and then you guys go outside. And going outside means that there might be a trail of mess just because you didn't have the opportunity to clean up and the itty bitties are still learning to clean up. So if you're able to just ensure that that path and you're ensuring that the path is clear, that way, if there's any kind of emergency, there's a free and clear path. There's no toys in the way, no obstructions, and you're able to get in and out safely, especially if you're bringing a child in for diapering. You may not notice that that one little toy was left out on the middle of the floor, and bam, you and the child are going out. So please make sure that you are conscious of cleaning up those walk spaces, clearing those pathways. Clearing your position of your staff is so important. Some classrooms are so lucky to have 3 teachers. When we are fully staffed, many of our classrooms have 3 teachers, but it is so important to use those teachers effectively. So if you are in a classroom that is full of action, like infants and toddlers and twos, you are constantly moving and grooving in that classroom. But there is a system to the chaos, right? So you know where someone's going to be. You're always facing your students. If you're at a table with children eating, or you're with the children who are eating a meal, then you're going to be there, you're conversing with those students, and you're monitoring them. Whereas somebody else would be across the room doing something else, but their backs are facing in towards the class. Their body is facing in towards the class so that they are always having that eye line, that sight line of the rest of the class, even though they're engaged with other students. And you're doing the same as well. So just make sure you really try to position yourself. Even when washing hands, this is always tricky because a lot of our sinks are in the corner. So you kind of have to like turn your body while you're washing your sink, your hands at the sink, and you're watching the rest of the class, or you're helping a child wash their hands. You still do have to face the rest of the classroom. That way you kind of have that corner of your eye action going on. If you know of a child, and we all have at least one who needs that additional support in the classroom, maybe you're in the infant room and you have a child who is starting to walk, but they're very tumbly and very stumbly, and that means that that child needs an extra eyesight where they're going towards the shelves. Or maybe you have a 2-year-old who is on a biting spree lately. That child needs that extra eye on them. So you're going to be in close proximity to that child. So you're within reach, but you're still doing other things that are important in the room. And that's just like a natural skill that teachers seem to have, and it's innate. But some people do have to learn these skills. So if you notice that another teacher is struggling with this concept of making sure that they're with the child, but also engaging in the space itself around the child, Because we can ask someone to be a biter shadow, but it doesn't really mean they're hyper focused on that one child. They're partnered with that child. They're going to engage right before that child hopefully bites another child and teach them the right skill, but they're still engaged with the other children in the area. They're still focused on the rest of the classroom as well. And that comes with time and that comes with practice. But supporting each other in those instances and giving each other tips and suggestions will only make us stronger. So the classroom map zoning activity, I thought this was pretty interesting. I'm just going to talk about it very quickly. But zoning yourselves in the room, that's what I was talking about, is stationing yourselves, zoning yourselves, but making sure that you're in a space where it's a busy spot. Your kids love dramatic play. They love housekeeping. So you want to make sure there is someone stationed or zoned in that area. And they kind of have this view of 3 other stations or centers in the room, and that's their prime focus. This takes communication between you and your partners in the room. If it's just you and your co-teacher, you and your lead teacher, then you're communicating, okay, well, I'm going to have this crew today. Maybe you have a child who you've been working with and you've been really trying to get on how to do cooperative play with others. So you're kind of like be their shadow throughout center time and free choice time without them really knowing you're their shadow. But you're going to guide those engagements with others. If you foresee a conflict arising, you're there to help that child learn in the moment. This is what we should do. This is how we address this problem. They took your toy. I know that hurts your feelings. This is how we get the toy back safely, and we use our big kid voice. But while you're doing all that, you're still focused on these other centers and free choice areas in the room. And that takes a lot of practice, like I said. So you speaking, communicating with your teaching partner is so important. Building up a plan. You literally have an action plan like you're playing a football game of where everyone's going to be, what's the play-by-play, and then how's free choice going today. Free choice is not free for all. Free choice is still teaching. You're teaching through play, and the children are learning through play. They just don't know they're learning and having a lesson at the same time, right? They're playing, but you're engaging with them and you're guiding them through instruction. And they're just having fun. You have 1,000 things happening in your brain at one time. They just think you're playing blocks with them. So it takes that plan of action, that gameplay for your it's like a whole football game you're really planning out here. Who's going where? When are you going to move to this zone? Who are you going to follow over there? And then when you have that in action and you guys practice it together and you really have that communication, that's important. You're going to see a big difference in your classroom environment and the structure because the students are going to know where to expect you. You're in it. You're not sitting on the side. You don't have kids just coming up to you and you're lounging. You are in it. And that is so important. Because if I wanted someone sitting on the sidelines, sitting on a shelving unit, sitting over here at the table by themselves, and you kind of have the occasional kid coming to show you something cool they made, that's not what I hired. I hired educators. So we want to make sure that our educators are educating our students. So if you are struggling with your classroom environment, classroom management, where you notice someone who seems to be struggling, that's on the survey, by the way, so you can send it anonymously to me. We're going to build them up. It is not something that they're going to get in trouble for. They just don't know, I hope. So my job as an administrator is to teach them. Your job as their lead teacher or co-teacher, whoever you may be, is to support them. So please make sure that you are speaking up and helping support your fellow coworkers because they may just not know. They may not know, and we want to make sure we teach them, just like we're teaching our students. Excuse me. This is a setup for a playground. Same deal. We love stations. So important that our station should have had a red dot on that play structure because that is your great vantage point. You're able to see everything from the top of the play structure. You're able to engage with students while they're having fun. You can be the monster at the top of the play structure, but you're also engaging and supervising. You're actively supervising. Standing next to the fence, when there's another teacher on the other side of the fence and you're chit-chatting, is not active supervision. And it's driving me nutso to see this because you're just waiting for something to happen. You need to separate your body and make sure you are focused, engaging with your students and your co-teacher. Because if you're contacting someone from the other side of the fence, that means that your focus is not on your students anymore. And active supervision is out the window. So we want to make sure that we are paying very close attention to our students, and we are actively supervising. If someone's trying to chat it up with you, you just kind of like slowly mosey on over and they'll get the hint, but you're not being rude. You got to focus on your kids. Or just pretend someone's doing something on the other side and you're like, hey, Mikey, and you go over and you talk to Mikey. But Mikey didn't do anything wrong. You just needed an escape. That's okay. They'll understand. Okay. So this is an infant room, obviously, and we have this one teacher who is actively supervising because she's actively feeding an infant. There's a child in the bouncer who looks a little too small to be in bouncers, but that's okay. She's got a pillow under him. And we want to make sure that this teacher, as you see, has a visual, right? They're able to visually see, they're able to have that sight line to that one child. This is very low ratio classroom, but you'd have like 6 infants around you, moving and grooving, some crawling, some non-mobile, some walking. And for that vantage point, sitting with the chair, I would say towards the corner, this woman here has it in the middle. So if an infant was crawling around, got behind her, that sight line is gone. You can't see that infant. Hopefully the co-teacher would be on the other side, maybe changing diapers and can see the infant. But I think that placement of that chair right there, poorly placed. The rocking chair should be in a place where you can see all those other itty bitties. You can tell your co-teacher, hey, so-and-so's behind me. Will you please grab them so they're not in the get their little finger squished? That communication is so important. And our infant room has great communication because that's what they have to do all day to make sure those babies are safe, well cared for, and that no one goes crazy in there because there's 10 of those babies. And it's just constant movement. There's no 2 hours of rest time in the infant room, right? So we want to make sure that a room like this, it kind of becomes the 3rd teacher or the 4th teacher where the children are in a safe environment. There's zones for them. Our non-mobile infants go in one section. Our mobile infants don't have access to crawl on top of those non-mobile infants. So all of that comes into play, and the teachers have to think about that constantly, right? They have to really have that football game, that play-by-play going on and communicate with each other. This is what I was talking about, scan and count. You want to just continuously scan the space, right? Don't stop scanning. I say like every 15, 20 minutes, you want to make sure no one just snuck out the door. So we're always making sure we got all 15 kids. I see you, I see you, I see you, I see everyone by name. No one snuck out. No one wanted to go play on the playground. And then Miss Shannon got distracted, so I was able to go on the playground, and I'm the only one on the playground. Miss Shannon had no idea because Miss Shannon didn't scan and count the past half hour. So just please make sure you are conscious of where your students are, counting them. You and your teaching partners are always in the game. You have a plan, and you are always proactive. So these are tips on how you can ensure that things go smoothly and your active supervision is smoothly run. So prepare children to move from one activity to another. If you have children, even toddlers, okay, we're gonna get ready to go outside soon. Okay, we're gonna make sure our shoes are on. Can you count your shoes? 1, 2. If you have shoes, come to door. If you have shoes, come to, I don't know what you guys say. I'm not a toddler teacher, but you get my gist, right? So we're constantly communicating. My co-teachers know exactly what the plan is because we don't really change it every day. So-and-so is going to get the backpack board, water jug, the water cups, and out they go. They're the line leader, but they're also counting every toddler. They're scanning the room, making sure that we didn't leave anyone behind because they could be hiding, those sneaky toddlers. And then I am the caboose, and I'm doing exactly the same thing, but as the caboose. So my job as caboose is to make sure I check every crevice before that door shuts. Don't let the door shut until you have counted your second time. Same deal when we come inside. I got all the stuff. I got the backpacks, the whiteboard, like the 1,000 things that you have to bring outside with you, including the bubbles. And I'm counting. I count every head, face. I'm looking at the faces. I know who I'm counting. And then my co-teacher's doing the same as the caboose. The caboose, my co-teacher, then scans the playground. Look in those crevices. Go look in that caterpillar. Look in the mushroom house. Because some little itty bitty decided they wanted one more turn. And that split second when the caboose teacher decides to turn, count the first time, and then she goes to grab something, that's it. That little itty bitty just ran into the mushroom house for the caterpillar, and we've counted, right? It happens so quickly. So please make sure you are consciously aware of how many students at all times. Okay, so the sounds in a classroom, we get very used to them, right? We get loud times, we have quiet times sometimes, and we're listening for these sounds of, oh, someone's in pain, let me go tend to them. Oh, someone's in distress, oh, they have a problem, I hear whining, and I have to go help them. But then there's also the absence of sound. So making sure that we are aware if all of a sudden it gets dead quiet, what is happening? Because if my house is dead quiet, there's something wrong. So making sure that we are just aware of all the sounds, the absence of sounds in and around the classroom space. And have a strategy, like I said, with your teaching partners, making sure that maybe somebody is on incident report duty. Like you take turns each day. I'm on incident report duty today. I'm going to do all the incident reports. Hopefully, I don't have too many today. But if I hear incidents, I'm going to tend to boo-boos. I'm going to tend to these situations. That doesn't mean I'm working with every child with a behavioral need. I'm just working with those who get boo-boos and need an incident report. If we can anticipate child's behaviors, now this goes for all ages. If I know I have a biter in the room, if I know I have a child who's susceptible to hit before they use their words, then I want to make sure that I am near that child when it is a time of transition. If it is a time when they have free choice and free reign, remember, it doesn't mean chaos time. It doesn't mean that it's just all over the place nonsense. We are actually teaching at that time. So you're going to be with those children, those biters, those children who are instinctively are very physical with their reactions, and we're going to guide them. So you want to know where they're going to be, their interests, what gets this kid motivated. Is it blocks? Do they love to go to library and have you read with them? Maybe even bring some Tucker Turtle books into library with them, and then shadow our biters. We want to make sure we recognize those challenges. Because sometimes with biters, it's difficult to pinpoint what is triggering them. Some of them, they're just teething, and that's very tricky because they have to be over teething to be done with the biting. Where others, if it's a behavioral need, if they're hitting or biting because they're frustrated, then we can intervene and we can teach a skill. Where if they're biting because they're teething, we have to get over the teeth painful part because teethers, some of them just chuck the teether as soon as you give it to them. But offering the child support and guidance and making sure they know your presence is really important. And that's part of active supervision as well. So when we are helping children solve problems, we don't just dive in right away. And that becomes difficult for some of us because we just want to help. We just want to help. But if you don't let them try themselves first, especially if you taught a skill for the older kids, if you sat there with a small group or a whole group and you've taught a problem-solving skill, what happens when a friend takes your toy and you've been busy? What happens when a friend knocks your structure over before you said it was okay? How do we work through that problem? And you taught that whole lesson and then it happens the next day. Watch, get close so you can intervene, but watch how if they use the skills you taught the day prior, if they seem to struggle, then you can start to gradually guide them. Oh, remember yesterday? What did we say when this happens? Remember, Miss Shannon got her whole tower knocked down. What did Miss Shannon do? And then maybe they'll be able to take back from that memory and apply it to that moment. But tailor the help and guide them through it. Don't just give them all the answers. And then you can always give them those two positive choices for, well, we can build it again, or we can go find a different center and I'll help you clean it up. And then those are two positive choices you would say yes to regardless, and then they can move on after solving the problem of the friend who knocked their tower over. Maybe the friend can help them build it. I mean, you have all these options as long as they're cooperative after the problem solving portion. Active supervision in action. Okay, so looking at this picture, if you want to write a response or you want to chime in by using your microphone, but what do you notice about active supervision in this classroom? So taking a look, if you were an administrator and you're making, you're doing evaluations, you're observing, what do you see in relation to active supervision that is a strength or that she might need support with? And it's okay if you don't answer. I'll tell you the answers. Okay. So the things that I noticed, and feel free to cut me off if you want to chime in, but there's the child all the way in the back area. He's here. He seems to be in distress. Something's gone wrong. So hopefully another co-teacher comes and supports him because she's here busy with bubbles, right? So she's trying to occupy and engage these students. Now she can address that child from across the room, but he may need more support than just her words. He might have got hurt. Maybe something fell out of his hand and rolled away, and that's why he's upset. But here, you see these little feet right here? There's an infant there on a table. So this one happened in our school. I don't really know what they do here, but there's a baby and a bouncer on a table. And it doesn't look like she can watch that child from her standpoint. So she would probably have to shift her body to have a better view and supervision, active supervision of that infant on the table because it's so itty bitty. Good. So these guys are engaged with her bubbles, but they're very active. So their flailing arms could get this little baby. Someone's got two microphones on. So they could whack this little itty bitty here, probably not the best spot for an infant to be while they're jumping around with bubbles. So this one is more of a preschool classroom. They're lucky, they have 3 teachers in here, and it looks like an administrator is just chilling over here. But when we're looking about the active supervision in this classroom, does anyone want to chime in? No? Okay. What I noticed was this teacher was here and she's with the children who are eating. Fantastic. She's conversing with them. She's engaged with them. This teacher's here is helping these children with book selection. Maybe she's going to read to the small group right there. This teacher would be doing a fantastic job, but she got distracted by this administrator. This administrator came in, made her turn around, and took her supervision totally out of the equation. Shame on the administrator. No, I'm just kidding. But hopefully it's something very important. But right here, it looks like she's, I don't know, because they're wearing masks. It must have been during COVID. But when she's talking to the admin, stand side by side and face the classroom together. That's how I try to do it when I come talk to a teacher. So I'm actively supervising with the teacher. I'm distracting at the same time. And it doesn't add too much insult to injury that I'm taking the teacher away from supervising the space. So if this striped shirt teacher turned and kind of stood next to this administrator and faced the class and the whole classroom, that would be much better situation. We're not taking her really out of the equation, okay? And I think that this classroom is a little cluttered in the space here because there's really no walkway for these kids to get out. I would definitely suggest that they spread things out a little bit or remove something so the kids can get in and out easily without tripping. But that's my 2 cents. Okay. So I do ask that you do this and just be mindful and try to implement it. Please, please, please try to implement this active supervision. So these are the 6 components that we talked about. And your homework, if I ask if you could please sit with your teaching partner and discuss the classroom environment. How does the setup allow for active supervision? So what do you have that's really beneficial for active supervision? What changes would you make? Share needs with admin so we can provide support. So if you do notice that some changes have to be made, let us know and we'll do our best to make sure if it's a furniture swap-a-roo issue, then we can work on those things there. If you need those mirrors, some people have to have those circular mirrors, like at Holly Ridge, we have a blind spot, so the circular mirror helps us see, and same in building 2. Get a plan of action of ways you can effectively scan and count. So just like I gave you examples of caboose and line leaders and what you should be doing, please make sure you have a system in your room. There should be a routine and set of expectations every time. Don't skip a time. If you're the only teacher in the classroom, then you're doing triple duty, right? So you are on it for both, all 3 teachers, whatever the case may be. Where will you position yourselves during center and free choice time? Make sure it is a meaningful spot. You're engaging with kids, but you're also actively supervising the classroom. And how will you display active supervision? So how will you guys show it in your room? What will it look like? What do you need from admin to feel supported? And that's important too. If you feel like, I have no idea what you just said about active supervision, Shannon, then that's something you come tell me so I can help you. I'll go into the room and we can just kind of model it out together with your kids. And I'll be a teacher in the room. Okay, I did this last week, but I want to make sure everybody knows there was a hiccup because we don't have the wraparound kids' last names in some of the classrooms. Or if you get a different child, please use ProCare to look up the child's last name. There's a lot we're receiving are just first names. So please make sure that you do that. And you are signing your incident reports and making sure the parents sign. If you can't get a parent to sign, bring it to the front office and we will then bring it in the morning to the classroom teacher and hopefully get it signed that way. And hopefully the picture was taken and sent to the family so they're aware of the incident report, which is extremely important.
Shannon, can I just emphasize that a little bit more because it is such a problem we're dealing with right now? We cannot stress enough that you have to write incident reports. We are dealing with a couple of kids right now that we are having a lot of colorful behavior that we have to deal with. We have been in touch with the parents and they feel blindsided. They're like, what are you talking about? I haven't gotten any incident reports. I didn't know of any problems that were going on. And we're like, you're ridiculous. That's absurd. We go into that room several times a day to have to deal with that child. How could the parent not know? So we look for the incident reports. There are none. Well, maybe the parent took it home instead of signing it and leaving it there. So we go on ProCare to look for those pictures of it, and there are none. We have to have the incident reports.
Yeah. So, and that means the non-injury reports right here. This is for behaviors. Incident reports are for injuries. So please make sure you take pictures of those and send them to the parent. If you are not the classroom teacher and you don't have access to that child for some reason, then please tell us that you can't send the picture because I would not know otherwise. And then we can find a solution. I can quick picture, someone else can take a picture and send it to the parent. For the behavior reports, the non-injury reports, and the ABC charts, at the end of every day, you should have sent a picture of that day's ABC charts. Please make sure you do that because if the parent is signing it, which is great, they might pick it up and walk home with it because they want a copy and they don't know any better. But you need that. We need to build up the support. We need the evidence for title for their pediatrician. If it comes to the point where all of our resources have been exhausted and we have to dismiss the child, just like Joyce said, if the parent says, I was never told, they never told me about incidents, I've only heard about one or whatever the parent's going to say, we got nothing to back it up. So the pictures are worth a cajillion words in this instance, and we need to have them. So please make sure you are doing that. Non-nappers, I bought these toys and the non-napping things. Some of you are using it. If you don't have them and you'd like them, let me know, and we'll make you little non-napper bags. But they do have to wait and lay quietly to earn them. They don't just get them right off the bat. So you set that visual timer, 20, 30 minutes, however long you think that child can lay. Maybe you have to start at 2 minutes and then they earn it. And then you just build up time and eventually, hopefully, they're just falling asleep because they waited so long. If you haven't done this yet, Brittany will sit with you and go through it. You do need your license when you do it, and you do need to have time to go either through your phone or on a laptop, and just let us know and we'll guide you through it. But I will print a new list to see who has yet to complete it. and joining teams. Most of you are on teams. Some of you, though, still need to join, and I am going to start using it a lot more for communication and sharing of materials. So if you see a link and I tell you about the link, I'm going to put it there. If I say I have a document, I'm going to put it there. So if you're asking me for things, I'm going to say, well, it's on Teams. You don't have access, then you're in trouble, right? Then you got problems. Free resources here. So click that. You can use this username and password, and videos, resources, printables, Tucker Turtle, like everything that you could want that we've been talking about recently is in there. Cox Campus, free courses, you get contact hours, that's awesome. And they give you real video of real classroom interactions, which is so valuable. You don't want the fake sugar down, we want real. We want people making mistakes and then we're critiquing them in the course. And that is so important to see people in real time. That way you can gain experience and knowledge through the course of how they're teaching you. Okay, so next time this is what that teacher should have done. Trainings. Ruby's got this wonderful PowerPoint, which is on Teams, by the way, for you to click, and you can go see all your trainings and step-by-step. She made it for you. And these are all links that you can click. If you have yet to take NC Phil to learn how to write lesson plans, I suggest everyone do that. You have to do it your first year, so you might as well do it now. Get it done so you know exactly what goes into a lesson plan. Okay, so I want to highlight this. I know it's just the last slide, but it's so important that we've had some individuals coming and going, having negative conversations, or really being Debbie Downers. And I understand some people might have a bad day. You might have a bad week. You might have a bad year. But the moment you start sharing negativity with others, you can see it. You can see the morale drop. You can see the attitudes. You can see people start to get snippety with each other because of just one comment or one warning of somebody who had a negative approach. I understand it's very difficult sometimes to leave things at the door, but the people who need us to leave it at the door the most are our students. Because if you bring it into that classroom, they sniff it out in an instant. And then if they're sniffing it out, your co-teacher is going to experience pure chaos because they're reading from what you're dishing. Then your co-teacher is going to be miserable. And then it's just it's just all disaster. So I'm asking that if you have a concern, first of all, I put the survey out there. So please, if you want it to be anonymous, use the survey. But just come to us, message us, come into the office, because some people are expressing concerns and issues with other staff members, but they're not bringing it to us. And then if we don't know that you had a concern or an issue or it's been building this whole time and now you're up here, we never knew when it was down here. And we could have easily supported you at that time. Or you could have told us, this happened, I didn't feel supported, and this is what I'd like to see next time. Thank you for telling us, because sometimes we think we have worked with you on a solution or we've had a conversation and you're not happy with that solution, but you don't tell us the why. And we can't work through it and try to get better at what we're doing as administrators. So I really ask that instead of the gossip, instead of the negativity of how you feel without looking for solutions, you do come to us. So at least we can do our best to guide the solution, to support you, or at least hear you, just to be heard. And if we can't support you, we will tell you flat out, but that's very rarely the case. All right. I appreciate everybody for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your Teacher Appreciation Week this week. Enjoy the goodies. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me, and have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.